Hello, welcome to Something Positive for Positive People. I'm Courtney Brain. Something Positive for Positive People is a 501c3 nonprofit organization supporting people who are navigating herpes stigma. I want to make a couple of announcements real quick, and I will try and keep this as brief as possible. As we approach our 400th podcast episode, I believe this one's 388. So we're about 12 weeks out from that event, which we will be celebrating episode 400. It's a talent show slash karaoke. If you follow me on Instagram, you know I've been on a karaoke kick lately. I've been practicing dancing, so yeah, I might get up there and show a little something off, you know. And this is going to be December 12th in Brooklyn, New York. The address will be given upon registration. The zip code is, I believe, 11206. It's close to there. It's close to there. If you're familiar with New York, if you Google the house NYC or the house Brooklyn, then you'll know where it is. But that's the venue. It's on Friday, December 12th from 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. And this is something that I would like to be able to do more often. I just created a landing page for people who stumble across something positive when they look for herpes related things in New York City to be able to find community because I like doing this kind of shit. Things. I like doing those kinds of things. And I want to do it more regularly with people that I think are supportive to the cause of minimizing herpes stigma, who, really just want to like take this and learn from it and be able to heal and move forward. On Mondays at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time, we have our virtual herpes support groups. There's one for women, there's one for men, and they alternate. So the first and third Monday, women. The second and fourth, men. I had someone send me a text actually, and I was very surprised that this came from this person about the way that I promoted the groups on TikTok specifically. And I thought that I just was exaggerating that the groups were separated: men group, women's group. I don't have the experience, nor do I have the resources to be able to facilitate a non binary or trans only group. I didn't think I needed to say this, but if you're a trans man, you would come to the men's group. If you're a trans woman, you would come to the women's group. But for identities that fall outside of men and women, there is not something that is like created that only tailors to those identities. So yeah, I don't know if that was misinterpreted at all, but I like to think that over the last 8 years, I've shown some type of allyship and understanding. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe it was just my exaggeration on men and women that was misinterpreted. But the support groups are there, and there are also alternatives for people who are looking for more queer and LGBT experiences. I have that linked on the website as well. And I think that's it as far as announcements go. If I think of anything else at the end of the podcast episode, I will, if I don't forget it, mention it. If you haven't already taken the survey, just go to the survey tab on the site. There's a banner up right now that is easy to find. It pops up in your face when you go to the website to take our survey. All right. Now I have a guest. I put that podcast episode out, and I was like, "Yo, I need help. Like, I'm running out of stuff to talk about, running out of things to say. I can start sharing my experiences, but I'll be honest. I've been a little bit hesitant to be as open about my personal experiences because I've been out of a relationship now for 7 months. I think the breakup was in February. It's been 7 months. There's been like I've moved on and there's a healing process, but like there's still a remnants of me that is a little bit hesitant and resistant to share my dating experiences and like what's happening for me. If you've listened to other podcast episodes, you know why. But yeah, I've been called out for hiding in a way. So this ain't me, necessarily doing that, but I'm just figuring out ways to respectfully for the like respecting the integrity of the relationships that I have, as well as being mindful of like not putting myself in a position for somebody to think that they know me and then kind of get into my life in such a way. Like I got to be careful with that, and so I'm working on how to navigate that. And really, in therapy, he's like my therapist, who I can't stand. Shout out to Derek, but he's right. Like he's great at his job. I can't stand my therapist, but he's great at his job. He's been telling me, "Hey, you really just need to you do what's for you. You can't be not doing what's best for you because of your concerns about other people. And I'm like, ah, that's so much easier said than done. But we got a podcast guest here that is probably going to reflect back to me the importance of that. So I'm going to let you introduce yourself, how you want to be introduced. And then, of course, first question is, how do we connect? And we'll just go
Sure.
into the conversation from there. But I'm rusty, so give me grade.
Perfect. Yeah. I'm Rachel, and it's funny you mention your therapist because that's how I found out about something positive for positive people. I am obsessed with my therapist. She is a gem of a human, even though she also does frustrate me, but I love her. And she texted me, which I feel like when you get into a texting relationship with your therapist, you're like, this is real. So she texted me and she's like, not sure if you've heard of this. Like, I feel like for homework, maybe check it out. And I'm like, great. And I went to the website and it was immediately just like, it was the first time experiencing something like similar to this. And I just feel like it was, to sound slightly cheesy, like the most like positive initial experience I had kind of since getting the diagnosis and feeling like there's just so few resources or so few people I can connect with. And so I pretty quickly like signed up to do a support call. And so you and I connected through that channel. And weirdly, I think I mentioned before, I was like, right when I went to the website, I was so drawn to like be a podcast guest. Because I like to do podcasts and I work in a different industry and I just like love to talk and hop on podcasts. And I think this is so important. And the podcast episodes I have listened to, it has genuinely been so valuable for me because I think anyone to date that I've shared with in the past 2+ years since I've had the diagnosis, they don't personally share the experience. And so I think the benefit of being able to hear people's stories and talk to people, like after the support call, I said to my therapist, I was like, it was like catching up with someone and talking about a new restaurant we had both been to. And like the normalcy of how that felt was so important for I think where I was at and where I want to continue to get to and be. Because again, I think it's like the deep down of like, it's not a big deal, but the stigma is pretty bad. And I think just continuing to do the work and do the things to be in a better place kind of internally and kind of, who I choose to share it with and all that good stuff. So
Can I record that for a commercial? No, I'm just kidding.
sure.
No, thank you for that. I just appreciate the process. Shout out to your therapist. I'm glad that these resources are making it to the people that are the initial contact points of being able to get people going into the direction of talking about this. So, in your case, you obviously shared with your therapist that you have herpes. And I
Mhm,
hear from a lot of people that they don't want to do that. Typically, they don't want to ruin the relationship or to be judged by their therapist. And it's
mhm.
like, what else aren't you telling your therapist?
Right. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
in your case, what inspired you to share this with your therapist, just for anybody listening who might not want to do that?
Yes. That's actually so interesting because there wasn't even a thought in my mind. It was the first person potentially, it's like hard to look back. I received the diagnosis and I received like a pamphlet that was like, your life's not over from my doctor. And I was like, opposite effect this is having currently in my life. And I kind of like panicked. I'm in shock. I'm dealing with the emotions of it. And I text my therapist. I'm like, hey, we're gonna need to bump it up to weekly appointments. And I didn't tell her in the message, but I was like, I knew mentally I need like as frequently as I can see this woman. And the hard part was at the time of the diagnosis and as this is all happening, I was newly laid off. I was like going through a lot of other things in my life where I think there was already the stress of like affording, I mean, life, but also therapy. And so I think that's the other reason where I'm grateful. I have a really solid therapist, a good relationship with her where she's like, I don't want that to be a barrier. Whatever you can pay, you can pay. We'll make it work kind of thing. So I'm lucky in that regard. But she was one of the first people that I at least tapped of like, me kind of just starting to build my network because I didn't tell, it took me a long time to tell anyone. Like I just kind of sat with it and basically was just talking to her about it, dealing with the emotions. And then it from there, still have kept it fairly close, but told two of my best friends, told my mom and sister, told a person I ended up then dating. So, there's like six people in my life that know, which feels wild. But I'm grateful that like she's one of them and she's certainly helped me progress and I guess just like my experience with the internal stigma and just like working on different ways to feel better about the situation.
Yeah, you just mentioned something that I struggled with therapy, cost barrier. So for me, on one hand, it was like, okay, I need to like save my money, but also if I'm not in a good place to be able to do the things I need to do to make money, then whereas it's a
Yeah.
paradox, right? I
Yeah.
need therapy so I can afford therapy, but I can't afford therapy, and because of that, I need therapy as well.
Mm,
And what I've found is that I have found someone who works for me and works with me
mhm.
because a lot of things ebb and flow. Like
Yeah.
we are in
Yeah.
a time where the government is currently shut down here in the United States, and a lot of people are
Mhm.
having to go to work and they're not being paid. There's
Yeah.
things to do, around that, but I everybody don't have access to that, and
Totally.
so I guess like what for you made the paying for therapy more of a priority than perhaps other things that you might have used your money for to cope or just like get
Yeah.
by.
Yeah, I think it's a funny it hasn't always been that way. I think like I was introduced to therapy at a really young age and I like hated it and I was always like really anti-therapy and then took kind of like a hiatus for a while and just like went through some therapists I didn't love and so found this woman and just immediately like we just clicked right away, which I do think is helpful and can be hard to find. But it was one where it's hard to identify exactly what it was. I think it was just something where like in the exact moment that I like got the results back from the test and saw like the diagnosis of herpes, I like quite literally within like an hour texted my therapist. Like it just was so immediate and it was like weirdly the financial component was kind of out of my head because I think it was a dire feeling of like it did feel like my life was over. I think like in that moment I was like this is like the worst case scenario. This is, the dramatic thing I have played up in my head for whatever reason. And I think in that moment, yeah, I knew I was like, I am, don't have a job, have a new health diagnosis. Like a lot of things were happening in my world that I was like, well, I need to be okay, and I need to take care of me to then be able to do all these other things. And so that was, I mean, completely just worth it in that moment. And I think I'm also grateful in that, like, I rent, I don't have a car payment, I don't have these other major expenses, so I was able to make it work. And, who knows where I saved money on less coffees and food or different things. But so made it work that way.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. For me, I think that what it came down to was I just had to inconvenience myself a little bit in other areas
Mhm.
where I did end up going to the grocery store more consistently and I started to cook more. But these were also things that I enjoyed and liked doing, right? Like
Yeah.
maybe I don't go out to a restaurant or maybe like I don't have time, I need to da da da. All it did was make me plan differently. Like I had to make
Yeah.
plans for how I was gonna eat and then grocery shop and then like being mindful of laundry and the cost of those things because there's a lot of stuff that if we're not paying attention to it, like those subscriptions they add up and
Yeah.
you might notice why am I paying $200 for a phone bill when everything that I need can cost me as low as 40 something dollars a month, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I feel that and that was kind of my thing too. And it was a cycle of doing what I needed to do for myself led
Mhm.
to me being able to do more for myself. It's like the
Yeah.
more you do a thing, the better you get at it. And I think that
Mhm.
going into therapy made me better for wanting to be in therapy. And then
Mhm.
being in therapy made me better at doing the things that
Yeah.
outside of there. Um, I have one more question related to therapy, and then I want to know what
Sure.
brought you here.
Yeah.
And that is something that I've struggled with in the past has been becoming too dependent on my therapist, right? You got your
Sure.
diagnosis and you're like, let me text my therapist. Or
Yeah.
at what point, like, if we're in a situation where, something's happening real time, oh my
Mhm.
God, I need to tell my therapist. And then we wait a week to like deal with
Yeah.
the thing or bring it up and nothing's happening with it. We're just in kind of a timeout until we
Mhm.
talk to therapy and then come back to it. Where's the line between that and the progression of your experience in therapy to where when you're touched with a situation that you would normally like need to talk to your therapist about, you're
Mhm.
able to address there? Do you have any words about that?
I do. I think it's one where I think even beyond like being more like frequently going to therapy or just, really finding the right person, I'm always someone who I'm just like fascinated by like mental health and psychology and all like I've always like exclusively kind of like read nonfiction on that topic. So I think I'm someone who like I almost didn't maybe even give myself credit. Like I know the tools. Like I know the things that are like valuable and helpful when like something, comes up that's outside of my control, which is life. And I feel like I love having like the progression and the relationship and the like camaraderie almost with like this therapist that I've now been going to for almost like 5 years at this point. But I also like she even has had in her own personal life like things lately where we've had to like push out appointments and there was like a big gap recently and it's like I was okay and I was able to kind of make those things work and I still want to stay consistent with it, but I think it's kind of like I think there's a timeline, at least for me, and I like to imagine other people experience it of like you're going to therapy and you're checking that box and you're doing that thing and you're investing in it. But it's like then also taking that and like doing the things that you're learning and that you're talking about. And I think there's unfortunately a little bit of lag time there, but I think now I'm at a point where it's like I've been in it for so long and I so like even a lot more recently, I was like, I am so tired of like feeling the way that I feel about this diagnosis that I cannot change and cannot cure. So I just want to figure out what I need to do to feel better. And I know that's not just me going to therapy, like that includes other things.
Yeah, thank you. And that works, because I was we make this joke, with a friend of mine, like, we both stopped going to therapy before we got into a relationship,
Mhm.
uh, and we were like, "Man, if we were in therapy throughout that relationship, we wouldn't have been in that relationship."
Yeah. Yeah.
And that the conversations that my therapist and I have been having, like, to process the ending of that relationship, because 'cause I've been seeing them sometimes twice a week,
Okay.
and other time well, now we're in the now at this point it's every other week,
Mhm.
just because like there's not much to talk about for me
Sure.
between week to week,
Mhm.
and what we're working on just doesn't require every week sessions anymore, which I'm grateful for, 'cause, right, like now
Yeah.
I can start, putting my money towards other things. Like I was able
Sure.
to get a massage last night, and that
Yeah.
that felt good. Like I needed that deep tissue, and
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, that was good for me. So let's talk about, your diagnosis, 2023 of
Yes.
August, right after the dirty 30. That takes a whole new meaning to the dirty 30, don't it?
Sure does. It sure does. And I'm grateful that it was after my 30th because I feel like I like celebrated my 30th and that it was like quick after. But all that to say, it was in my experience, there was like a build up to it. So obviously looking back, didn't know in the moment that this happened, but I got BV first. And I had never had that before. And so like went to the doctor. I think I got like an antibiotic to clear that up. But I had a really negative reaction to that antibiotic. I started having like vertigo and like just feeling like absolute shit. And so to offset that, I was on like so I was basically for 3 months just like so sick. So it was like BV, strep throat, reactions to this medication that I was taking. I'm like weirdly sensitive to any and all medication always, so it was not great. And then even after all that, I was noticing like some discomfort and like a sore that I had never experienced before. And of course, I'm researching to be like, what else could it be? Because I think like my mind went there, but I was like, no, like this can't be what that is. And so I like messaged my doctor and she's like, I would like for you to come in so I can check this out. It sound like immediately she's like, it sounds like herpes. And I was like, huh. And so go in, do the test. I think at the time I was surprised I did this, but I think I even reached out to my mom and I was like, she knew how sick I had been. And I was like, I'm going through all this. There's a chance it could be this. I'm freaking out. Can you come into the city? And when I get the results, like we can like open them together because I'm so nervous about it. And then I like couldn't end up waiting. So like I ended up like opening it and seeing the result and she like got in and I like shared it with her. Um but I mean, it was like this drawn out process in so many ways, just of all the different things like my body was going through and I was going through and I was feeling awful. And then it like all kind of like looking back, it was all related. And it was after like a long day of day drinking turned into a girls' night, turned into another. Like it was like an unfortunately messy, like, nah, this was not from someone that I was in a relationship with. This is someone I met that day. This is someone that looking back, took advantage of. I was lit, like just absolutely. So like there's definitely like also trauma included in, the diagnosis itself. Like that was hard for me to kind of get past, but I think it's also looking back now, it's something that, in all things, I'm like, okay, let's see. I try to stay positive. I try to see a silver lining in things. And I think it's taken some time, but it's also something that through this diagnosis, I have been grateful in the fact that I have had 2 outbreaks in over 2 years. So it's not something physically that I deal with on a frequent basis. It's type 1, which I've heard may or may not mean less frequency of outbreaks, different things. But it's certainly, I guess it's forced me to be like, all right, I'm always someone who I teach fitness classes, I take care of myself, I'm into health and wellness, but I was like, I wasn't really taking care of myself. And I think that was like came to fruition. And I think now I'm truly able to say, like, I take so much better care of myself. And that's certainly been a reflection of this diagnosis, kind of like bringing that to light and making me want to do it even more.
Yeah, as I'm reading through what you wrote, and I'm like, "Oh, okay, that," and you're covering everything. So, um, I'm so 2 years. How has dating been for you? What does dating look like? Yeah, you made a face. Go ahead.
Like it's dating. I got the diagnosis in August of 2023. I spent a month living in Portugal in October of 2023, which was like a pre-planned thing I was doing. While on that trip, I both met someone that I was like, we like really hit it off, like spent a week together, whatever. Shared it with him. He did not react well, which like was like my first like, potential partner sharing this with, and it was like not ideal. And then weirdly also on that trip, someone that I had been seeing previously, like longtime friend, but like him and I had hooked up during the pandemic. There had been kind of like this on and off again, like will they, won't they? But reached out to me on my trip and was like, basically like, I want to do this for real, whatever. And I'm sitting there like all excited, something I'd been wanting to hear for a long time. But then I'm like, oh, but now I have this new diagnosis. That's like new information. And so I get back from my trip, we reconnect, we like go on a couple dates, and I'm like, like normally we would hook up right away, and I'm kind of like hesitant because I had shared it, I guess, with the one person in Portugal, and they react poorly. And I share it with them, and they were just like, I don't know a lot about this, but like I'm not going anywhere and all this stuff. And we're like, which in my mind I was like, okay, best case scenario, like they're not reacting poorly. We like end up dating. We dated for almost a year. And what I will say is I think the timing of it all was helpful in that moment because I don't know if I would have truly been ready to like deal with all of the emotions and all the things. Like, I think dating someone so quickly after the diagnosis and someone who also didn't share the diagnosis but accepted it and didn't reject it was so beneficial because during that relationship, like, I did not feel. I didn't think about it. It was like the only time period kind of since that I was like, I didn't think every day, like, I have this diagnosis that's like, changes things. And we broke up last October. And that's when it hit me. Like I was like, oh shit. Like I was like, now I have to like meet new people and put myself out there and like do all this stuff. And I think right from that, I went on some dates with people and I found myself like kind of cutting myself off before it like progressed into anything physical.
Can we talk about that self-rejection that happens?
Yes.
How we manage that
Yeah.
because I recognize this for myself too. And I used to think that it was because, oh, I'm too big of a personality or I'm
Mm.
too intense. And it's amazing what we tell ourselves
Yeah.
just coming from what other people have told us
Mhm.
versus what we know to be true about ourselves.
Yeah.
And that's oftentimes where the rejection comes from. It's a lingering rejection that is outside of ourselves. And I guess I'm feeling a little brave, so I can like share something that I've noticed for myself recently.
Mm.
I have a roommate who's very social and is
Mhm.
always like he's hyping me up and always trying to put me on, introducing me to people.
Yeah.
And he'll just have you met Courtney? Like, if you ever seen how I met your mother, like, have you met Ted?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Very that. And
Yeah.
I catch myself like having been so focused on uh, this isn't the setting, like, that person's
Mhm,
probably not here, and I think back to social media, like, a lot of
mhm.
times on social media, if I'm just watching stories or scrolling through and I'm seeing what people post, a lot of what I've been seeing lately is, like, women bashing men for coming up and talking to them, or, like, "I don't
Okay.
wanna be bothered, I'm just here to dance, I'm just here to
Mhm,
socialize, I'm not here to meet people," and I think that I've internalized that so
mhm,
much that I'm just like, "Oh, she doesn't wanna be bothered," and I
mhm.
just, like, shy away from it, and I know that that isn't always true, but also the only way to really know is to ask, and that
Yeah.
didn't really occur to me until very, like, recently. It's like, "Oh,
Mhm.
I'm approaching this interaction with the outcome in mind that we're going to not even, like not even exchange names, not even
Mhm,
how's your night, not even who do you know, right? The
mhm.
small talk, casual stuff. I'm bypassing all of that and getting to the point of, after the interaction where she goes home, goes to social media or the group chat and says,
Yeah.
"This guy tried to talk to me, ew." And
Yeah.
I'm just
Yeah.
like, oh, so I just prevent that from happening after playing that entire scenario in my head
Mhm.
briefly.
Yep. 100%.
That's like, hey, that's my self-rejection, which has nothing to do with herpes.
Yeah.
It's just that, but that's
And
like
that's
an
kind of the
example.
interesting part. I think that is like that I think is something I realized so much more recently of kind of like but then it's like a nice, I don't know. I try to see, I think it's been a buffer that I maybe needed before of just like it's not as if like because I was more of like a relationship person previously, and I think like I also kind of went through like a year or so where it was a lot more just like a lot of different sexual experiences and like really having fun and like putting myself out there and trying different things. And I feel like now I just feel like I'm like, what do I do now? Like it just feels different, but I know so much of that is like it's not as if people aren't, asking me out or, like pursuing me. And I finally, just because I was like, I should fucking try it, I joined like one of the dating apps that's like specific to which
I
has been
love how you say "one of," like there's any more than just the one that exists.
I well fair. I was like, I don't know. I
Yeah.
think I
We
Googled, I was
don't we don't have to we will not say their name. I'm banned off of there.
like, really?
Oh, yeah. I've emailed tried to get reinstated. I've been like, "Hey, what do I need to do?
I don't
Y'all
I
got
don't know
me."
if you're missing anything. I have been on that thing for 2 weeks and I'm like, there's no one like there's like four people in my city. Like so I'm just kind of like,
So people have been proposing that a lot of these profiles aren't even real people.
that's what I also kind of worry about.
And
Yeah.
that yeah, like, you'll see these people like, "Oh, where are they at?" And you'll be
Right.
excited about maybe matching or whatever,
Yeah.
and, yeah, wouldn't be surprised if they just, like, paid some people to chat and
Yes.
exchange
Yes.
photos just to
Yes.
keep it going, but, yeah, I'm not good for their business because I'm literally trying to get people to not need that, but
Sure.
it
Sure.
makes sense for me to be there,
100%.
and and then there's just, like, also, I don't need y'all. It's as simple as
I'm
that.
very quickly also like it's more that I'm kind of like I got to put myself back out there. I've been so weird about dating ever since like my last relationship ended. And in my head, I'm kind of like, okay, it could be nice to go out with people who share this experience. So that's like not even on the table. So it's not something I have to get in my head of like, oh no, if this progresses, then this conversation has to happen. And like in a weird way, I think my like very short-term experience on this app that they need a UX designer. They like this is the worst app I've experienced. I
Have
feel
you
like
have you tried Field, Feeld?
that is literally one that I've thought about because I also think like my personality and kind of like the things I'm into, I also feel like I would just fit within that world in general. And I also imagine like there's more openness in that space where it would be a little
Yeah.
less.
I can speak to that a little bit. Like, I've
Yeah.
had a lot of positive experiences on Field, which
Mhm.
has just been, like, more of a sex positive, sex
Okay.
forward, pleasure and safety,
Yeah.
dynamics being discussed upfront.
Okay.
You still might catch some of the people who might use the word clean or who are, like,
Sure.
drug and disease free
Yeah. Yeah.
free
Yeah.
free, but I think overall, for the most part, these are people who are much more comfortable with
Mhm.
talking about sex in general. So
Yeah,
therefore, sexual health being a part of that, it's a lot
right.
easier. Before we get too far away from it, though, the
Yeah.
self rejection piece, how do you manage that? How do you navigate the self rejection? What do you do, if anything at all?
I think very much like it's a work in progress, of course, but I think it's something where in my very recent experience, like putting myself on this app, I went on my first date from the app last night. I've like been
Now
out with
you
some
gotta tell us about
people.
that. Tell us about how the day went.
It's
How'd it
fine.
go?
Like I'm someone like it's hard because I never liked dating apps before all of this. So it's kind of one of those things where I was like, he was cute, he was nice. Like I feel like I'm fun, so I feel like I have fun
Hear
dating.
me? Okay, hear me out.
Yeah.
I have never heard a woman who was like, "He was cute, he was nice," be like, "Yeah, I wanna fuck that dude," or, "Yeah, we're gonna
I
get
don't
in a
want to fuck
relationship,"
this dude.
or,
Like,
"Yeah, we're
I
gonna
don't like I'm
fuck."
like I don't. And I feel like so that's hard. Yeah. So I feel like it's kind of yeah, I don't know. It's like my friend's like, how was the date? And I was like, it was fine. It was fine. Like it was fine. Um, so that's hard. But
What is it? Is it that he's not hot, or is it that he doesn't have much going on? Talk to me about this, because I think this can be useful information.
yeah,
Real time, you're coming off this date from last night. Where
yeah.
did y'all go? What did y'all do?
So and here's what I will say too. So I work in the hospitality industry. So I have very good taste in food and beverage and I
And
can
you have a very specific kind of personality, so I think that
yeah.
this says a lot too.
Yes, yes. So I feel like while I'm again very much also myself trying to be open, I feel like I'm quick to judge if someone's like if someone asks me out and they want to take me to this lame spot, then I'm like, well, I don't want to do that, right? And so I was excited because this person was like, hey, let me take you out and named off like a really great cocktail bar that also happened to be in the neighborhood I live in when she didn't even know like where I lived. So I was like, conveniently, this works out. I can walk over to this cocktail spot. I know it's solid. I'd been there before. I like it. Good vibes, like live music, like it's just a good spot. And I was like, okay, he has good taste. Like I respect that. And I think just like, and I don't know, I like it's not that I'm someone I think things can build in terms of like attraction or chemistry or vibes or whatever. Is it relatively short? Like I was like, let's keep it to a drink. Let's just meet each other. But I don't know. I don't know if I was super attracted to him. He's not an unattractive person. I just didn't immediately feel that. And then I think it also felt like I don't know. I like nerdy. I like people that are into their own things, but I feel like he gave me a little like maybe too lame. Like I don't know. Like, like
All right, the point that I wanted to draw out of that experience, like
yeah.
you sharing, is that none of that had anything to do with herpes. You didn't
Yeah.
reject yourself and prevent yourself from getting into that experience. Oh my God, did you meet him off of that dating app for people with herpes?
Yeah.
Oh shit. Well, that just negated the point. But I guess like I can still maybe pull something out of that,
Sure.
which is that you were able to be on that date and be present
Yeah.
and be yourself and be with him. And I don't know how much of it comes down to the when we date people with herpes, right? It's like no one has it on one hand, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then on the other hand of it too, I think that we have an idea of the kind of person who has herpes between
Mhm.
someone who's avoiding it and then
Mhm.
someone who is dealing, actively working through it or has
Yeah.
worked through it. And even me, like I'm somebody who's working through it. Like I
Mhm.
always have, like my stigma is just different than what most people have. And mine is like, I have to tell people very quickly because
Sure.
they ask, "What do you do?" Or
Yeah.
before
Yeah.
they Google
Yeah.
me, right? And so there's a little bit of stigma that I deal with around that, but I don't have a problem telling somebody before we
Mm.
have sex or somebody that I'm interested in hooking up with. Um, but yeah, I think there's a certain thing that maybe you've picked up on
Mhm.
that because that person is on the dating app for people with herpes and
Mhm.
that maybe there's not that same consistent authenticity, so to speak.
I think
Like,
that's yeah.
yeah, because if you're around people, and I use the example of like a friend of mine after I got diagnosed, I was hanging out at his house with his family, and I was in my phone, ha ha, he he, in the chat of that particular app that
Okay.
we were talking
I don't
about.
even have it on my phone. Mine's on my desktop.
No, don't let it be. Don't let
Yeah,
it be
no, I
on your phone. And I remember he looked at me. He goes, "You all right, man? You don't seem like yourself." And
Mhm.
that's when I realized like the inconsistency of
Mhm.
I'm more myself with these people than I am with the people that know me who are around me. And
Mhm.
that was when I had a decision to make
Yeah.
of not letting myself just separate myself
Yeah.
into these two personas and stop masking around, the people around me and keeping them from knowing what my herpes status is or that I was dealing with that at all. And
Mhm.
it's just been such a freeing experience because now that same confidence that I have around people who know that I have herpes is the same
Mhm.
kind of confidence that I have around people who, might find out whether or
Yeah.
not I.
Yeah. I think that has honestly probably been the most challenging thing for me because I think as a person, I am someone who, like, I'm very outspoken about mental health. I'm very outspoken about other experiences I've been through that are also stigmatized or also have certain, degrees of whatnot. And I feel like this I can't even I mean, I understand why I feel the way I feel about it, but I also do think, like, the isolation around, like I mean, so many of my, like, closest people I haven't told. Like, the audience weirdly in my life that knows is not even the people I'm necessarily, like, the closest with in this, like, given moment, and I think that can be it's, like, weird yesterday when they're like, "Oh, where'd you meet this guy?" And I just, like, use a place I'm like Hinge, like, and then it's like, "Oh, show me a photo." I'm like, "Can't, don't have that app." Like, so it's, like, just and I don't wanna lie, like, I don't but then it's like, I feel like when it's out there, and I think sometimes I worry about just, like, other people again, like, other people like, my own stigma was my own stigma, that's something I'm continuing to work through, and I think other people, like, I still pick up on the comments of just, like, the shit people say, and I don't know. I wonder if that will likely be like a next step of just continuing. Like I feel like this month I was like, okay, my goals for the month, and it's like across the board. It's not just related to like goals of dating or whatnot. But I'm like, go on a date, so like check, and like share with like one other person because I just feel like I need to keep like not keeping this like so close and getting more and more comfortable talking about it. Um, because the isolation around that I think is worse than the experience I've had dealing with it. So,
Yeah. Tell me about the support that you've received and sharing with your friends. Like, what does that look like to have talking to a friend about it go well?
mhm. I think it's been because again, it's kind of funny. It's like my younger sister and my mom are two people that know, and like they're wonderful. But I also think they just like I think I just get the sense that because they know it's been hard for me. So I think like they seem to be like sad for me almost, which like isn't helpful. And it's not them like acting a specific way, but I think they're just like, they don't totally understand it. They like have a lot of questions. They're like, oh, I'm so sorry this happened, da da da. And then I feel like my first friends that I shared it was also a little bit like they were pissed at this guy. They're like, "Fuck this guy. Do we need to go find him?" And I'm just like, "It's not." Like I'm like this it's like I'm like, "No." So there's that. But I think even that like one of them I'm grateful. I mean majority, but I feel like I one of my friends that I shared with is someone who's just like such a sex positive person. She's done the sex parties, she's done the like she is someone who immediately was like, "I know people." Like she's like I know people who have been diagnosed and then they're still, like it's fine. So she was just like in that space where I think it was like a nice person to share with and talk to about it. And then I feel like another one of my close friends, it very clearly was like her first time like hearing this experience from someone. So I think like obviously not ill-intended or unintentionally, I think definitely said some things that like rubbed me the wrong way, but it was also me so freshly dealing with this news and this new thing. So I think like it's been a mixed bag. And that's what I think I worry about more of like everyone that I've told to date, I trust has like not shared with other people. They've had, fine reactions. And I think I'm like, okay, safe. Like that's a good whatever. And so I think when I start to open that up, I worry about that piece of it. But it's also, again, it's like the balance of it might feel nice to just be like, why is this such a big deal? Why is this big secret that I've been holding on to that's been weighing on me when it could just be like my friends are good people. Like that's why they're my friends. Like it is what it is. Like so anyway.
Yeah, thank you. Because I think what, like how earlier I mentioned, a lot of people don't tell their therapists, a lot of people don't tell their friends.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, what we miss out on is being reminded who we are outside of our diagnosis.
Hmm.
When we get the diagnosis, we immediately absorb and we start to take in and project how we think people think of us
Yeah.
rather than how people actually do see or think of us, because we lose it, like we really
Yeah.
just
Oh,
get lost in it. And
yeah.
so to be able to share with friends, to be able to share with people close to us, I know how much resistance there can be to such a thing,
Yeah.
but it doesn't have to be that resistance. We don't have to have that resistance at all. And I think that it's so important that we do share with people who can remind us who we were prior to our diagnosis,
Yeah.
because that's who moves forward in the dating, and that's who, if we're rejected for being incompatible with who we're trying to assess for compatibility. But if
Yeah.
herpes is at the forefront, we're looking exclusively based on that. And it's just
Mhm.
a matter of, does this person, are they okay with me having herpes? Yes or no? Great. We can be in a relationship. We're going to get married, have kids. And then it's like, well, wait a
Yeah.
minute. I have completely different values, political
Yeah.
views on how to raise kids, if you even want kids, and
Sure.
we bypass all that shit. And by the time we finally look up after having gotten into the relationship with someone just who accepts us for having herpes,
Mhm.
it's too late. And now we're trying to figure out how we can make it work. And then, bam, all this time passes of just trying to situate and organize what life can look like, or changing things about yourself and what you do and what they do, trying to make a puzzle piece fit together that just might not be the case.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that that's really what can help with that self rejection, is the reality of touching base with people around you in order
Mhm.
to be reminded who you are outside of your herpes status. Mic
Yeah.
drop.
No, 100, like that's been a recurring exercise in therapy of just like, Rachel, let's like sit down and write about yourself and all the things that make you you. And she's like, "Oh, how interesting. Like this is a full page of all these different things." And it's like, "Oh yeah, like deep down I know this." But I think it's something where like my very, very brief experience that will likely not last very long on this app is like this can't be my dating pool. I was like, I have so much to give, and I am like, and I am, if anything, honestly, the best version of myself that I have been. Looking back at relationships, like worked on myself, my relationship with alcohol, how I take care of myself, how I show up for myself and other people, like it's the best it's ever been. And so it's like, okay, great. Like that means the person I date, maybe they share this diagnosis with me, maybe they don't. Like, and I think that's the piece that I like. And I think it weirdly took me downloading the app and getting matched with like all these like, 60-year-old men in Maryland, like, hey, like, let me fly you out. And I was like, this can't be my soulmate. Like, what's happening here? And I just am like, what?
That's
Uh,
not your
so,
soulmate. That's your sugar daddy.
like, and sure, like, I'm open to, I own my own business. I work hard with love, but like, so,
Yeah, that's not the pool. And
no,
I think that being able to hear, about the experience that you're having. 'Cause it doesn't sound like you're having a negative experience. It doesn't sound like you're having a positive experience. It sounds like
yeah.
you're having experiences and then you're making the most of them. Is
Yeah.
that the case?
I think I kind of laugh because I feel like these types of things always seem to be this way, but I'm like, this was very well timed because if you caught me on Tuesday, I was having like a very low day that I think I was mostly blaming on this diagnosis. I don't know how I'm gonna feel, like feel better, da da da. And like, 3 days later, whatever it is, I'm like, and I do think like it was nice to go on a date and show up and feel confident and get ready and like meet someone new and have them be interested in me. And I think there's also this like I think in those like periods, I do feel like there's kind of times where it almost feels like this like animal magnetism. And I feel like I've been feeling that of like, I feel like people are kind of coming back from like past parts of my life and like reaching out. And I'm like, okay, I think I'm like exuding this energy that I maybe haven't like really felt in a while. And it's nice to start to feel like confident and excited and open to these things that I had been like pretty openly closed off to for a while. I was like, I'm just not dating right now. And it's like, ugh. Like, and it's like for for shit reasons, like it's fine to take a beat and figure it out. But
I want to expand on that I'm just not dating right now, because
Mhm.
this has been heavy on my heart lately, of
Mhm.
people, because we can't do a thing or it's not going well, the outcome that we get of it not going well is kind of like what we begin to accept and then form an identity to of
Mhm.
like, oh well, I'm just not gonna date, and I'm now a person who's not dating. I'm not dating. I'm not
Yeah.
dating. But you want to be dating, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'm trying to figure out wording for that
Mhm.
because the whole thing about something positive for positive people, I hope that it's clear that my intention is to empower people with choice. A lot of us who got herpes, we weren't given a choice in whether or not we were put at risk for getting this
Yeah.
or exposed to it. And
Mhm.
so choice was taken away from us. So now we are empowered with the ability to give others that choice for
Yeah.
themselves. And there's power in that. The power of choice is being exercised every time we put ourselves out there, every time we initiate this conversation, every time we disclose or discuss our status with someone, every time we unlock that vulnerability and are willing to share with someone else, we
Yeah.
are reclaiming our power by giving power to other people of choice. And
Mhm.
then we also get to make the decision and choose whether or not we
Yeah.
move forward with them. But I think that a lot of people get beat down to the point where it's like, oh, I'm never dating again. I'm just going to be single. I'm going to be celibate. I'm not going to
Yeah.
put myself out there. I'm done with dating apps. And we do that. And it creates this negative, perpetual, internalized stigma where that to me is probably the ultimate rejection. Accepting that you're just going to get this outcome that you don't want and then making yourself want it is a form of self rejection.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. And it wasn't out of nowhere. Not that like it ever is, right? But I think it was like I also had like a like I laugh because it's so ridiculous. So to quickly go back to the first technically person I shared the diagnosis with in like a romantic setting that I like on a whim met on a literal island off the coast of Portugal. Like whatever, totally hit it off, spent a week together. We were vibing. I shared it. He like literally recoiled, like bad vibes, right? Randomly run into this person again last year in Mexico, like totally random. I'm like, okay, something is pulling us together, whatever. At that point, he's kind of like, I can't stop thinking about you, all these things, like whatever. Tries to hook up. I turn it down. I was like, I'm not really feeling it. Then I set up a trip to Portugal again. It's my favorite place on the planet. And I go for like a post-birthday trip. And I'm just like going there, it's happening. And he reaches out. He's like, oh, like, tell me about your trip. Like what can I join? I was like, this is my trip. It's already set, whatever. If you want to join, you can join. So I'm thinking there's all this build. Like obviously, at least I'm like, we're gonna have sex. Like I'm like, that's for sure happening. This man meets me in a different country, changes his travel plans to take me out to a nice dinner, and that night tell me he's not comfortable with it. And I'm like, then why? Like
I think that speaks to the caliber of men you're attracting, though, because if someone
100%.
is willing, it's motherfuckers that people are begging for attention from their boyfriend, their
Yes.
partner, and you got this
Yes.
man who just wants to take you out, gets to meet you out of the country, goes to dinner. Like the amount of time, energy, money,
Sure.
effort
Sure.
goes into that.
Yeah. Yeah. No, for sure. But then
That
it was this weird emotion of like that all happened. So I'm imagining one thing, and then it was like this weird kind of switch of like not comfortable with it, can't, pulls away, acts weird, haven't spoken since the trip. Like just weird. Like like
yeah.
so
But shout out to you. Shout out to you for getting that kind of effort. Like now you know
yeah,
that you are capable of receiving that level of effort from somebody.
sure.
And a lot of people don't let themselves receive that despite having herpes.
Yeah.
Like that's what I want to highlight here. That is fucking
Okay,
incredible.
no, I like that. I like that take.
And and he's someone who had to meet you where you are. You
Yes.
were like, "Hey,
Oh,
I'm doing this.
yeah.
I'm going to Portugal."
Yeah.
And sex wasn't even on the mind. Or I
Yep.
mean, I guess sex wasn't happening for him.
Yeah.
He
I know. I'm
but
like,
and
okay, like that's if that's your choice, like
and while you wanted the outcome of sex,
sure.
right? Like, you were still there for the journey. You still took your
Yeah.
trip, you still went. You gave him the invite, and
Mhm.
that's one of the things. That's a perfect, example of choice, right?
Yeah.
You make the recommendation, you give him the choice,
Mhm.
and that's it. Like, you
Yeah.
gave him power in that situation, and that therefore is empowering for you.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and that's it's interesting. I don't know. I think I was really frustrated by the outcome. And I think it
Oh,
was less about the person. I think it was so much weighing on. I was like, oh, I can still have this diagnosis and fly to a different country and meet a man and we can have like a little cross, whatever. And then it just felt like, oh no, I can't do that because of this, which again is also not true. Like
what you told yourself?
I know. Yeah. So
Like, yeah, but I guess this is a great time to speak to the importance of community
mhm.
because, like, we talked about this in the women's group this past Monday. When I say the word community, I see two words. I see common unity, and the common unity here obviously is herpes, but then there's also the common unity of being willing to examine this and take the wisdom from it. What is there to learn from living with herpes and going through the process of having stigma affect us, our behavior socially, and all of that stuff.
Mhm.
So that was like being able to share that in a room full of people. How many people would have had like different narratives attached to that? Like you're
Right.
like, oh man, I can't even date and have.
And it's like,
You're
wait, you
like,
did all that? Like,
excuse me? Like, I just want somebody to say hi to me. I just want
right.
somebody to hold my hand. I want
Yeah.
somebody to do what they say they're gonna do. You
Yeah.
got all of that. So now you know that you're capable of it. Again, the more we practice doing a thing, the better we get at it. So if you're
Yeah.
practicing setting the expectations of this is where I'm at, you can
Mhm.
meet me here, and
Mhm.
then you find that there are men willing to meet you there. The
Yeah.
next thing is just going to be about identifying consistency.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's real. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. But, speaking of, support groups meet Mondays, 7:30 p.m. Eastern time,
Okay.
and, yeah, there's a process to get into that thing, so just hit me up if you're interested. We are, close-ish to time. I like to ask if there's anything that you wanna share or if there's anything you wanna leave listeners with before I let you go?
I think, yeah, no, I think kind of just reiterating the piece for me that I think pulled me to this space. And I think just really seeking out, like, I think across the board, the community side of it is so important. And I think there is something so valuable, whether, and it's finding the spaces where they exist. But I do think just being able, because it was until this that I had spoken with anyone who shared the experience. And I think it feels different to talk to a therapist or talk to a family member or a friend who, best case are supportive and wonderful and helpful, but like not having gone through it themselves. I think there is something so different to be able to talk to people in that space. And I think in a weird way, not just the community of it, but I think at times it kind of helped to remind me that I may be further along than I give myself credit for. Like I think which is like because I have some bad days, right? And like we all do get it, but like there was I think there's just so much negativity and there's just very clearly people that I've, briefly spoken with that are not where I'm at. And I'm kind of like, well, I'm here. So I don't have any interest in playing like therapist or, XYZ for you to get to where you need to be. But that's a nice realization because I don't think I felt that way until more recently, which is progress and exciting and makes me feel hopeful about just even the confidence to say like, yeah, that's not my dating pool. Like my dating pool is much more vast and that's exciting. And having that mindset versus like the limiting beliefs that I think I maybe started with.
Yep, and you've had this for 2 years. It's been
Mhm.
2 years, and you've already had so much growth, so many experiences, and you've only just recently found something positive for positive people, which I think
Yeah.
speaks volumes to the caliber of the different directions that we can go into for our healing process, right? So your avenue was okay, you connected with your therapist told you about me, and here we are now, like doing a fucking podcast episode. That's
Yeah.
incredible to me. Like
Yeah.
this is awesome. Like I love that you're all of the stories that we share, they're unique because of where I am in time, where you are in time. Because I've done interviews when I was not in a good place,
Sure.
and I've done interviews when I was overly enthusiastic and happy. And right now, I can say that I'm at a baseline. And I also want to just thank you for being here now and giving me the space too to like kind of be a little brave and just share some of my personal experience.
Sure.
Like there isn't much that I've shared, but to be able to like get back into the rhythm of talking openly about my dating life despite
Mm.
being a man with herpes. Like I think it's coming. I'm still not fully ready to just be like, here's what I'm doing and got going
Sure.
on. But
Yeah.
it feels good to have been able to step into that. So thank you. I very much appreciate
Yeah.
you, the timing for you coming on here and being able to share your experience.
Mhm.
Um, and then we already talked about anonymity, so that's it. I don't think I had to say your name at all.
No, I don't think so. I probably said it. So like, and that's I'm not concerned about that, but yeah.
Okay. I'll be telling people, like, I have no reason to say your name. So, like, yeah, we're on video,
You're like,
we're
it's fine.
recording
Yeah.
the podcast, but, like, I'm only gonna use audio.
Sure.
Um, are you willing to share just, like, what this experience is for you while we got a couple minutes? Like, how was the interview for you?
Good. I think it's something where I think twofold. I think, slightly selfishly, I'm like, I think this will be a good experience for me to be able to kind of like talk freely about this, like talk about it in a way. I think it's even like progress to like not get emotional talking about it. I think early on it's very just like heavy and tied in with other things. And I think yeah, I don't know. I just again think the organization and the podcast and everything just like immediately spoke to me in a way of like this is what like this needed to exist. Like, and I think it's not the lack of resources that like some of us are probably led to believe is the reality. And I think just like yeah, I saw that like Herpes Awareness Day is like coming up on Monday, and like I which I was just like I'm very aware, but like what does this mean and like what can I like I don't know. I think there's a future potentially where I'm a bit louder about it, and I don't know what that looks like because I think current state for me is like I own my own company. A lot of that is very tied into something where I think there's a fear of like putting it all out there and then like so many people know. But I think there's also a reality where I'm kind of like, this has been something I've been dealing with. It hasn't been easy. And I would love to also be someone who can help other people who are experiencing it. And that I think it goes so far for me to be able to say like, oh my gosh, like and then it's kind of like a reminder to yourself of like, it's really not that big. Like, I'm just like, physically, not a big deal in the slightest. Emotionally, that has been the challenging part, but even that, like, progress has been made. So no, and again, I love hopping on a podcast. I could like talk all day. So that experience is always fun for me, but
I was on mute. All right, good. Well, thank you. I appreciate you being on here and sharing your experience. And I mean, that's really what the process is. If anybody's curious about being a podcast guest, just go to spfpp.org/podcast. Scroll down a little bit, fill out the intake form, and I will reach out to you. And it's as simple as that. Um, as I mentioned, we've got the Monday support groups virtually 7:30 p.m. Eastern time. And this is every Monday. They alternate. First and third Monday are the women's groups. The second and fourth are the men's groups. And to December 12th event in New York City, it'll be in Brooklyn. I'm sorry, Brooklyn, New York. So if you're in one of the surrounding areas, if you're in town for the weekend, come through 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. And then we'll probably just migrate to somewhere else. But yeah, I'm looking forward to being able to facilitate this space and keep it going. That's it. That concludes this episode of Something Positive for Positive People. Please like, rate, review, share, subscribe to this podcast, the organization, and get involved however you see fit to do so. Till next time, stay present. And now here's that long pause between me scrolling to the part where it says, what? Ooh, I'd have been pissed if I wasn't recording. Woo-wee. All right, here we go. Stop recording. And now you got to hit the stop.